Today I'm going to talk about how to teach Gavotte for Mignon, which I think is probably one of the more challenging pieces in book 2. It's kind of on a different level than the pieces that come before it, and even some of the pieces that come after it are not quite as challenging. So, of course, I always advocate that my students are listening to their future rep well in advance, but I think this one especially is really important to listen to every single day before you even take a look at the music at all. So ideally, my students will be very familiar with this piece and know exactly how it's supposed to sound before they even start playing. And then I like to start with several different little previews of these different challenges. So firstly, I start them out with the Pizzicato section at the very end. And the first thing that we do is I anchor their thumbs here on the fingerboard, and then they practice and then these rolls are tricky. But getting that with the thumb anchored is the first step. And then eventually the goal would be that they can just do it with first finger. Some of my students have really struggled and can't even do it, and it just takes extra time. And at that point, sometimes I let them anchor their thumb, and then we come back later on and try and review it with just the index finger doing the pizzicato. But that's challenging, but it's definitely a skill you'll need in orchestral rep and chamber music and everything, is just being able to do pizzicato like this quickly and transitioning fast from arco to pizzicato. So that's the first thing we start with, and that preview is laid out on the second page at the very bottom. And then the next one we do is just these 16th notes. And I do take out the dots. I don't think it should be, because then at that point, basically, it's just going to be that kind of crunchy sound. So I do let them kind of connect those 16ths a little bit more. Another preview that I do is the potato preview, I call it, just so that they can remember it. So this happens twice, once on the first page and once on the second page. So I teach them 1 potato, 2 potato, 3 potato, 1 tomato, 2 tomato, 3 tomato, just so that they can have kind of a reference point for how many times they're repeating it. And then the first time, it works for a lot of kids for them to leave third finger down instead of I think at that point it's kind of up to the student what they want to do, but I think I always have my students try it both ways, just so they can be more versatile. And then on the second page, it's easier because you don't have the string crossing, but I do have them sing and think the same words. So this is... And it also should be noted that the first time we do that potato spot, we lead into it with a slur. The second time it's just separate. I think it's up. Oh, no, it's down. No, sorry. And so saying those vegetables, tomato and potato, helps my students just keep track of where they're at. One part that's particularly challenging is that middle section around measure 35. This part with the low 1, and then we have low 4 to low 1. So I like to have my students keep 1 down. So there's not a lot of flying popcorn fingers during that section. That's already challenging anyway. And let's see. Oh, there are 2 color coding things that I try to do here. There's kind of a first ending and a second ending to the main theme. The first ending I usually mark with 1 color, this part. And that comes back a little bit later. And then the second ending, And just having a little bit of color in the music, I think, really just kind of reinforces the memory and helps kids grasp what they're trying to do. Let's see, measure number 5. This is tricky. Sometimes it's easy to overthink this and to make it sound more stressful than it actually is. So a lot of times students will just understand it if I sing, I am hungry now, I am hungry now, or some other little made up phrase that they can use to guide their fingers, how many times they should do that little term. The eighth notes throughout this piece should be released poof eighth notes, and really not so much digging in the string like you typically hear from Suzuki students. And then throughout the whole piece, we can either do tiny quick retakes or we can stop the bow a little bit sooner and do no retake at all. So I'll just start here. So tiny retake or stopping earlier and continuing. Yeah, I think that is basically all that I have for this piece. There are lots of different sections. I try not to make it too chunky, but more of a cohesive approach to this with little preview spots that we look at well in advance. So yeah, that's Gavotte for Mignon. Thanks.